mortgages, and you know, so this was forgive me on this, this is a human-made tragedy. It didn't have to work this way. It didn't have to be this way, and there was absolutely no thought given to the aftermath. Now, you mentioned earlier what happened to folks in the Cattle Congress and herding people through the process where they were given this plea bargain agreement. They got burned so badly for doing that that there was an even larger raid in Mississippi 2 months later where they actually nabbed 500 people. Only eight were actually indicted on felony charges, and the other 492 were actually put in traditional deportation proceedings. And this, of course, raises a lot of other questions that Aaron gets. I know you get this question. I get it from time to time. No, wait a minute. You just told me that they set up this special prosecutorial process for the people in Postville, for agri-processors. You march them through that, and you stick these 300-odd people in jail, and then you send them for 5 months, and you send them home. And you're telling me 2 months later they had a bigger raid and they didn't do that again? Why? What's the difference?
And maybe we'll know after the trial if some of these documents, you know, come out.
Yes.
Yeah. There's not been a clear answer as to why the difference. And yeah, you know, of course, that a lot of these Guatemalans, you know, almost 400 of them that got arrested, they were charged ultimately with felonies, felony identity theft, which involves knowingly stealing, let's say, an American's social security number, using that fraudulently to get work. Of course, the irony is that they're primarily illiterate in their own language, again, let alone Spanish, let alone English. They literally cannot read most of those numbers or have any concept even what social security is or stealing it. The idea that it was deliberately done as an act of identity theft, by and large, they have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You know, they just know that they were working some, various mechanisms get these numbers, and were doing that. But that, of course, the Supreme Court has since overturned and, said those types of you can't charge these kinds of people with felony identity theft because they don't deliberately know what they're doing. That's different than organized crime doing that.
Do we have time for one more question?
Sure.
Please, you've been waiting very patiently, sir. Thank you.
There were stories in the media for some days prior to when the raid occurred that the federal government was trying to lease a large facility somewhere in northeast Iowa, and speculation as to what this was all about. Was there a feeling at that time that was something of a precursor of what occurred, and if so, were there any steps that were taken to try to take the edge off of this, if in fact it was to occur?
We have two responses there.
First off, it's very interesting. I hope it comes out in the trials. The agri-process management sent a letter to ICE, dispatched a letter when they heard, and they said, please come and talk to us. We'll comply with anything you want to do. They invited ICE to come in because they already heard it's coming. They said, we're open. You don't have to tear down the walls. Come in. They ignored that letter. They just did not act on that, and that's one thing that I think should come out in the trial. And I think it's, like if a guy's willing to give himself up, like if David Korsh would have walked out with the white flags that I give, then Janet Reed wouldn't have had to torch him, right? But here, they offered the white flags to come in, do what you have to do, and they still went ahead with the action. So there was indicators from that calendar that the thing was coming, even though they sent a decoy to another place.
We sent several,
Yeah, and that did happen in Waterloo, Cedar Falls, where we live, and UNI is based out of. And boy, the tension was palpable in that part of the state. People were really, because any of us that do immigration, everybody was riled up, thinking, boy, this smells like a big-time immigration raid. There were, they put out different theories that maybe it was sort of a FEMA emergency preparedness practice kind of thing, and
agro-terrorism.
Agro-terrorism, that was just a dry run, but most of us suspected it was going to be a massive immigration raid, and they didn't announce it to any local people or law enforcement really until that very morning when that happened.
Yeah, they were very, very clever. Their agents were showing up from all over the country, and we knew all the local hotels were jam-packed, and we had friends who go into these bars. They started chatting up. They said, yeah, I'm from the Department of Ag. We're just here for some training. They're all ICE. They were all ICE agents. And just another quick caveat to that, too, is very interesting. The Cattle Congress, which is, we describe it in the book as a county fair on steroids. When the rumors started leaking out, we knew that this wasn't an agro-terrorism drill rumors started leaking out through friends and family and so forth that they were putting in chain link holding facilities in the pavilions and all the FEMA trailers, and we knew something was up. And we actually tried to drive onto that campus before the raid and got a little suspicious when we wouldn't give them any identification. And there are also theories in the blogosphere that this was a FEMA drill for martial law, that they were practicing to impose martial law, and this is where that we were all going to be guinea pigs and be marched through there.
Everybody
Anyway.
got very riled up, and so nobody knew this. Would it be Agri? Would it be, because Waterloo, of course, has a massive meatpacking plant, corporate one, Marshalltown, and so everybody was on edge in the immigration community. They were nervous everywhere.
Are we done, sir?
Or did you?
Thanks very much to Mark, Michele, and Aaron, and can we give them a hand?
Thank you.